أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم ثم الصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وأصحابه الأخيار أما بعد السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. Our next topic is العطف وحروفه. العطف وحروفه, that is conjunction and its letters, that is conjunction and the characters that are used as for conjunction, just like we have in English and all those kind of then, those kind of words. We are going to look at the Arabic version of it, inshallah. Okay, so going straight away, al-asl or al-nas, the author Ibn Ajrum, he says وحروف العطف عشرة وهي, the conjunctional characters in Arabic language are 10. And he says they are, this is based on his school of thought. So as we always say, whenever you learn something, it's not used in argument right away. We are all beginners. So he's saying that وَحُرُوفُ الْعَطْفِ عَشَرَةٌ, he doing hasr and making them 10 doesn't mean that wherever you go, you should find them 10. Some might differ, some might reduce it, some might increase it. There are some characters some consider not to be atf, some consider some to be, and he didn't add. Okay. So the 10 are وهي الواو, that is the letter waw, al-fa'u, the letter fa, and then the word thumma, aw, am, imma, bal, la, ولكن, حتى, حتى في بعض المواضع. It says حتى in some places. في بعض المواضع يعني في بعض المواقع, in some places. فإن عطفت بها على مرفوع رفعت. This حروف العطف, these characters, when you join one noun to another noun by using these conjunctional characters, when the noun comes in second, then the noun that is first is marfu, the second one would also be marfu. That is why he says فإن عطفت, يعني فإن عطفت كلمة على كلمة أخرى والكلمة الأولى مرفوع تكون الثانية أيضا مرفوعة. The first word, if it's marfu and I say al-waladu wal-bintu, now the bintu will have to take dhamma because al-waladu is dhamma. They have to be marfu. It has to follow it in rafu. أو على منصوب نصبت. If the first word is mansub, the second word will also have to follow it and also become mansub. And it says أو على مخفوض خفضت, or if you do the conjunction, you connect it to something that is makhfud, yani is majrur, you make the second noun also majrur. أو على مجزوم جزمت, or you connect two words, one is majzum and then you bring another and connect it. The second one should also be majzum because of the conjunctional characters used to connect them. It says تقول, you say قام زيد وعمر. Zaid stood up and Amr. Yani Zaid and Amr stood up. So Zaid here is fa'il and Amr is coming as ma'tuf. Amr is being connected to Zaid by wa. So it should follow it in is i'rab and also take the dhammatain. Become marfu just like it. And he says وَرَأَيْتُ زَيْدًا وَأَمْرًا. رَأَيْتُ زَيْدًا وَأَمْرًا. I saw Zaid and Amr. Here Zaid is mansub and you've brought the ma'atuf, which is the Amr, you've brought it. It also has to be connected with the Zaid by using the harf atf, and so it has to follow it in Arab. Also, وَمَرَرْتُ بِزَيْدٍ وَعَمْرٍ. You see, مَرَرْتُ بِزَيْدٍ, so when you say wa, you know that Amr should come majrur. Say وَعَمْرٍ. وَزَيْدٌ لَمْ يَقُمْ وَلَمْ يَقْعُدْ. زَيْدٌ لَمْ يَقُمْ وَلَمْ يَقْعُدْ. Yani you've joined لَمْ يَقْعُدْ to لَمْ يَقُمْ by using wa. Okay, now let's get to the explanation. Ashin, yani sharh. Al-atf fi al-lugha, when we say al-atf in everyday language, raddu shay, yani bringing something back. That is, something goes forward and it turns. Basically, al-atf bimana taking a turn. Okay, so it says تقول عطفت هذا على هذا. When you say عطفت هذا على هذا بمعنى I've connected this to that. This also is one of its meaning. عطف بمعنى to connect. عطف بمعنى to take a turn. So we say إن عطف عن الطريق. إن عطف عن الطريق بمعنى he's went off the path. وتقول إن عطف الطريق يعني إن عطف الطريق يعني استدار بمعنى the road has become round. When you say in عطف الطريق بمعنى the road goes forward and then it turns back. See, it's kind of taking a turn back and it's become round. يعني استدار. It's becoming like a runabout. والمراد به هنا, when we say عطف here in this course, التابع لغيره, that which follows another, بواسطة أحد حروف العطف, by using or by means of one of the حروف العطف, the conjunctional articles. إذن لا بد من واسطة, definitely there should be a medium. When you are connecting two words, there should be a medium. وهي أحد حروف العطف, and this medium is one of the would be one of the 10 حروف العطف التي ذكرها المؤلف, which the author mentioned. وهي, and it is the الواو والفاء as he mentioned to the end. Now we are going to take them one after the other. We are going to pick them one by one. Okay, so he says that al-waw, he begins with the waw. Says وهي أم الباب, وهي أم الباب, يعني the waw is the al-bab, is the mother of this chapter. That is the chapter of atf. When you say atf, the first thing that comes into everybody's mind is waw. تقول, you say قام زيد وعمر, فالواو هنا حرف عطف. The waw here is حرف عطف. وعمر معطوف على زيد. Amr is معطوف على زيد, يعني it has been connected to Zaid. والمعطوف على المرفوع مرفوع, and that which is connected to a word which is مرفوع also becomes مرفوع. وعلامة رفعه ضمة ظاهرة في آخره, and the sign of its raf is also is the dhamma that we see at its end. So the i'rab of Amr here, he says معطوف على زيد مرفوع وعلامة رفعه الضمة الظاهرة على آخره. When you say قام زيد وعمر, this is خطأ, this is wrong. لأن المعطوف عليه مرفوع فلا بد أن يكون المعطوف كذلك. The one that has been connected to the first word is مرفوع. You can't bring wa and bring another noun and give it majrur and say وعمر. We don't do that, it's wrong. It has to follow its i'rab. قام زيد وعمرا, this is also خطأ. لأنه واجب أن تقول وعمر, it's a must, you have to say وعمر. لأن المعطوف عليه مرفوع. وهذا المثال الأخير سيأتينا إن شاء الله لأن فيه تفصيلا. He says this last example that he gave, bringing mansub and connecting it to marfu, he says that we will talk about it later. لأن فيه تفصيلا, because there is a further explanation in this regards. This example particularly, قام زيد وعمرا particularly, there are some things that need to be clarified there. It's not always seen wrong like that. We need to explain further in that regard. So he says that وهذا المثال الأخير, this last example, سيأتينا إن شاء الله, سيأتينا إن شاء الله, it will come to us again, we will see it again. لأن فيه تفصيل. أيوة. ماذا تدل عليه الواو? What does waw refer to? What is the meaning? Of course, it is atf, all right, but we need to understand its meaning. The fact of atf is its function, is its work. But what does it refer to? هل الثاني قبل الأول أو الأول قبل الثاني? When you say قام زيد وعمرا, قام زيد وعمر, is it that Zaid stood first or Amr stood first? Does it show who did what first? Does it show sequence? إذا قلت قام زيد وعمر, هي تقتضي اشتراكهما في العمل فقط. It only shows that the fact that they are both engaged in the action. فقط alone. It just shows that they are both doing the action. أما الترتيب فما تقتضيه. As for sequence, الترتيب sequence لا تقتضيه أو ما تقتضيه. It does not contain sequence. It does not entail that. When you use wa as conjunction, it does not entail that. Okay. And then he says, فإن قلت قام زيد وعمر. If you say قام زيد وعمر, يمكن, it's possible, قام جميعا, it's possible they stood together. ويمكن قام زيد قبل. It's possible that Zayd stood up first. ويمكن قام عمر قبل. And it is possible that Amr stood up first. وتقول, you say again, قدم زيد وعمر. Zayd and Amr approached. Zayd and Amr approached. أيهما الأول, who approached first? لا يوجد دليل. There is no proof to the fact that Zayd came first or Amr came first. يمكن واحد قدم يوم الجمعة. It's possible that one came on Friday. وواحد قدم يوم السبت, and one came on Saturday. فقلت أنت, and then you say يوم الأحد, on Sunday you say قدم زيد وعمر. It's possible one came on this day, one came on that day, then you say قدم زيد وعمر. And at the end of the day both came. That is what refers to. It just connects the two, that both did the action. It doesn't show who came first and who did not. أليس كذلك. He's saying أليس كذلك. فلا تستلزم الترتيب. The wow does not necessarily call for ترتيب. Okay. And then he says, ولكن ظاهر قول النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم. ولكن ظاهر قول النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم حين أقبل على الصفا وقرأ. But the apparent meaning we get from the statement of the Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم, when he came upon Safa, when he got to Safa, حين أقبل على الصفا, when he got to Safa, يعني the Safa والمروة, وقرأ, and then he read, إن الصفا والمروة من شعائر الله. The Safa and the Marwa, those two valleys or mountains or whatever they are, actually they are among the symbols of Allah. They are among the signs of Allah. He's saying that when the Prophet ﷺ said this, because you can see inna safa mansub because of inna. Say as-safa ismu inna mansub. Wa alamatu nasbihi al-fatha al-muqaddara ala al-alif, because it is ending with alif, the fatha is muqaddar. بعدين واو, we say واو حرف العطف منصوب, واو حرف العطف مبني على الفتح. Then you come to al-marwata معطوف عليه أو معطوف على الصفا منصوب وعلامة نصبه الفتحة الظاهرة على آخره. Okay, we know in this. Did the Prophet say this to show sequence? And the Prophet said, when the Prophet got to Safa and he read inna safa wal marwata min sha'airillah, and then he said abda'u bima bada Allahu bihi. Prophet said, I am beginning with what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala began with. Does that mean that because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala brought as-safa first, it is showing tartib, that this one come first before that? So does it mean that we can extend that to say that wow shows sequence? So this is what we need to do tahleel of here. And then he said, أن المقدمة في العطف بالواو سابق على ما بعده. يعني, the apparent of what the Prophet ﷺ said would mean that al-muqaddama, the one that is brought first, fil atfi, in the conjunction, bimana as-safa, bil atfi, fil atfi bil waw, the conjunction with waw, the one that is brought first, sabiqun ala ma ba'dahu. It is supposed to, it came first in sequence before that which came after it. Bimana as-safa is first and the al-marwa comes second. That the wa is showing sequence. The apparent of what the Prophet said, that's what it means. But then, قد يقول قائل هذا. Somebody might say this. If you say wow does not show sequence, the person might quote this verse and say, Inna Safa wal Marwata min sha'airillah. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam read this and said, Abda'u bima bada Allahu bihi, bimana Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala began with Safa, and so the wow shows tartib. Okay. And he says, لكن نقول, but we will tell the person, we say, لا هو سابق باعتبار الاعتناء به. So we say that لا هو سابق باعتبار الاعتناء به. It is first in terms of attention, al-i'tina bihi, giving it care and attention. It comes first. Yani pay attention to this side first. أما باعتبار العمل الواقع بين المعطوف والمعطوف عليه فلا. When we come to the issue of atf, conjunction, and you want to say that, then the wow shows that the one that came before the wow is first, and the one that comes after the wow is second in terms of sequence. He's saying that fala. That is not the meaning of wa. So when we come to i'tibar al-i'tina'i bihi, because whenever you mention something first, it shows that you have a particular attention to that thing. Normal. But that doesn't necessarily necessitate that whenever you find me connecting two things with wa, it means that the one I mentioned first should come first in terms of actual actions. Okay. It's not a usual thing. It's not an always thing. He says, أما باعتبار العمل الواقع بين المعطوف والمعطوف عليه فلا. When we come to the reality or the actual function of atf, in this case, the wow does not show sequence. لأن تقديم الشيء يدل على الاعتناء به. He's saying that bringing something first or presenting something first shows that there is attention paid to it. Just like when you write a book, the introduction comes first because it needs attention. But the actual work is what? The body of the book. But then you bring introduction because you need to pay attention to it. Okay, not that in actual sequence the introduction is the actual work. No, the actual work is there, but then attention is paid to the introduction. So it's not like the wa shows sequence, but then it is possible that the one that is mentioned before wa shows attention. We are giving, that comes in the ma'ani balaghiya أو صور البلاغية في القرآن الكريم أو صور الجمالية في القرآن الكريم. That is when we are going deeper explaining the Quran, but wow does not show sequence. Okay, وأنه أهم من الثاني, and it is possible that the one that comes before the wa is important than the second one. It says فمثلا إذا قلت, for example, if you should say جاء السيد وعبده, the master and his servant came, فإن هذا هو الترتيب الطبيعي. He's saying that this is the natural sequence for you to say the master and the servant came. That is the actual sequence. Okay. وَهُوَ أَحْسَنُ مِنْ أَن تَقُولَ, and it is better than you saying جَاءَ الْعَبْدُ وَسَيِّدُهُ. You see, it is better in language for you to say that the master and the servant came than for you to say that the servant and his master came. It doesn't sound right. It's the servant's coming is in the shadow of the master. So in speaking, that is what you should say. Okay. But when you say Sayyidu wa abduhu, it doesn't mean that the Sayyid stepped in first. The Sayyid came first in actual coming. It doesn't mean that the Sayyid came first and then the Abd followed him. No, it can be even that the Abd entered first and then the Sayyid came. But in terms of speaking, you are paying particular attention to the Sayyid. Okay. فيكون تقديم الرسول عليه الصلاة والسلام هنا. So the fact that the Prophet ﷺ is bringing a Safa first, is talking about Safa first, لا من أجل أن الواو تستلزم الترتيب. This is not because the waw necessitates sequence. No. ولكن من أجل أن الأصل أن تبدأ بالمعتنى به. It is the fact that the basis of anything is that you begin with that which attention is paid to. Just like this master and servant coming, you need to pay attention to the master first. Okay, so because Allah mentioned it first, the Prophet ﷺ is giving it that attention. Al-mu'tana bihi, that which is giving attention and care. Wa bima huwa ahammu, and that which is more important. You know, I can even arrange something and bring the one that is important in the middle, bring it in the last. It doesn't reduce its importance. I can equally mention it first, which is actually the natural sequence. يعني الترتيب الطبيعي. Okay, we come to alpha. Alpha, I wish we could just do this one, but then let's just add alpha to it. I think it wouldn't be that much. Alpha and then maybe ثم. الفاء تقول قدم زيد فأمر. So we've seen that wow is just connecting things, but doesn't necessitate sequence. So when you say الفاء تقول قدم زيد فأمر, Zaid came and then Amr. Here عاطفة. This is the fa here is فاء العاطفة. لكنها تفيد الترتيب. But then this fa, it is عطف just like wa, but then it has a secondary function. It shows sequence. It shows which one came first. In the is here بمعنى such that إذ إن السامع إذا سمع, said that the listener, if he hears قدم زيد فأمر عرف أن عمرا بعد زيد, he knows that Amr came after Zaid. So when you use fa to make a conjunction, the one that is mentioned before the fa actually did the action first, and then the one that is mentioned after the fa did the action after later. Okay, and then we come to thumma. Now it says when we look at thumma, it says تقول قدم زيد ثم عمرو. Zaid came and then Amr. Or let's say قدم زيد فعمر. Let's say you say in English Zaid came then Amr. We wouldn't add end. Zaid came and then Amr. Then we come to ثم, we say ثم تقول قدم زيد ثم عمر. Zaid came and then Amr. أفادت العطف والترتيب. It gives the meaning of conjunction and also sequence. لكن الترتيب في ثم ليس كالترتيب في الفاء. But then the sequence in ثم, you know, we've said that fa, alpha shows sequence, ثم also shows sequence, and he's telling them that the sequence in ثم is not the same as the sequence in fa by using fa. What is the difference? الترتيب في الفاء, when we use fa to show sequence who did what first, يدل على التعقيب. This meaning, please memorize it. الفاء العاطفة تدل على التعقيب. تعقيب بمعنى I do the thing right after me. التعقيب بمعنى عقب فعلي. يعني جاء زيد عقب مجيء جاء أمر عقب مجيء زيد مباشرة. يعني عقب after, right after it. Okay, so it says that الفاء يدل على التعقيب. The fa shows التعقيب. Okay. It says يدل على التعقيب. So it shows that when you use fa, it shows that right after the first one did it, the second one that is mentioned after fa did it. وفي ثم, and in ثم يدل على التراخي. التراخي بمعنى التأخر, delay. يدل على التراخي بمعنى it shows delay. ولهذا, and due to this, إذا قلت, if you say قدم زيد فعمر, if you say Zaid came and then Amr, Zaid came then Amr, معناها أن قدوم عمر, the meaning is that the coming of Amr فور قدوم زيد. يعني مباشرة when you say فور بمعنى right after. So when somebody says أعطني قلم, then you say فورا. أو تعال, then you say فورا بمعنى right away. Says معناها, the meaning of قدم زيد فعمر is قدوم أمر فور قدوم زيد. يعني the coming of Amr was right after the coming of Zaid. لكن ثم أمر, let's say you say قدم زيد فعمر, the meaning is يدل على أن قدوم أمر. The meaning is that the coming of Amr كان متأخرا عن قدوم زيد. When you summa, it shows that Amr came all right, but it took a bit of time. It took some time. Maybe let's say Zaid enters, and then after about 2 hours, 3 hours, 5 hours, Amr comes, then you say qadima Zaid thumma Amr. Yani Zaid came and then Amr. It shows a bit of delay in the coming. So summa is also shows tartib, but then a bit of time span comes in. والترتيب في الفاء والتعقيب بحسب ما تقتضيه الحال. When we say that the fa refers to at-ta'qib, it is dependent on the situation. Yani it's not that every ta'qib should be 1 second. Every ta'qib should be 5 minutes or 10 minutes or 1 hour. It's not time specific. It's dependent on the situation. Every condition has what we can say it is ta'qib. Now it says وَالتَّرْتِيبُ فِي الْفَاءِ وَالتَّعْقِيبُ بِحَسْبِ مَا تَقْتَضِيهِ الْحَالِ. What the situation calls for. He does a very great explanation here, and mashallah, our choosing this book is just perfect. It says فَفِي قَوْلِهِ تَعَالَى, in the Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala statement, أَلَمْ تَرَ أَنَّ اللَّهَ أَنزَلَ مِنَ السَّمَاءِ مَاءً فَتُصْبِحَ الْأَرْضَ مُخْضَرَّةً. Do you not see that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent down water from the skies, and then the earth becomes greenish, becomes flourishing? It says Sabahul Ardi Mukhdarratan. You see that Allah subhanahu used fatusbiha, faul atf. So it should be ta'qib, yani right away. Is it like when the water falls 1 minute, then the ground is all green? No, it takes long time. But then why do we use fa, which refers to ta'qib here? Because in the natural sequence of time, it doesn't take unnecessarily longer. When water falls on the ground, the sequence follows right to the time the earth will become green. The normal time of it, the earth will turn green. Water wouldn't fall here today, and then after 10 years, the place becomes green because of that water that fell 10 years ago. No, the natural sequence is it falls within a week, you see some movement and you see the greens started sprouting out. Now that is the shortest possible time of the earth becoming green when water falls. So we can use the fa here that refers to at-ta'qib. It says Sabahul Ardi Mukhdarratan. The earth becoming Mukhdarratan, or Sabahul Ard Mukhdarratan, the earth becoming green. لم يكن فور نزول المطر. It's not right after the falling of the rain. لكن المعنى, but the meaning, أنه يتأخر عن الوقت المعتاد. أنه لم يتأخر عفوا أنه لم يتأخر عن الوقت المعتاد. يعني it doesn't delay beyond the usual time. So the usual time of the ground becoming green, it becomes green when water falls. So that is why the fa is used there and not thumma. Okay, when we use thumma, it shows that the earth delayed from its usual time of becoming green. Okay. In all this, if there is anything that is unclear, please do well to ask questions. Aywa. وتقول, and you say, تزوج زيد فولد له. You see, Zaid got married, فولد له, and his wife gave birth for him. ولد له في تلك الليلة التي تزوج فيها. He's asking, did he get a child in that night that he got married? La, of course. Mata, when? بعد 9 أشهر, after 9 months. لكن المعنى أنه, but the meaning is that لم يتأخر الولادة عن الوقت المعتاد. The giving of the birth, the childbirth, did not delay beyond the usual time. So when you say تزوج زيد ثم ولد له, it can mean that it took time after maybe 2 years before. Then you say ثم ولد له. But when you say فولد له, بمعنى when he got married, the first 9 months, his baby already is coming. فالتعقيب في كل شيء بحسب. When we say ta'qib, it's dependent on the situation, the said situation. Okay, inshallah, we end this here and then we pick from out in our next session, inshallah. اللهم علمنا ما ينفعنا وانفعنا بما علمتنا وزدنا علما آمين يا رب العالمين.